In the kitchen, there are no strangers, only friends we haven't met yet. These were the words Blaze Bernstein wrote just days before his death. They would become his legacy, but also a tragic foreshadowing of what was to come when he trusted someone he thought was a friend, someone who would turn out to be his murderer. It was a cool January evening in Orange County, California, when the Bernstein family's life was forever shattered. On the 2nd of January, 2018, 19-year-old Blaze secretly left his Lake Forest home for the last time in his young life. What followed would become a devastating chapter in American history, exposing the darkest sides of our modern society: homophobia, anti-Semitism, and the disturbing reality of far-right violence in the 21st century. "He was my unicorn," says Jeannie Pepper, Blaze's mother, her voice full of affection and pain. "Brilliant, creative, unique. He was everything a child should be, and so much more." During the interview, she holds a photo of Blaze, taken just months before his death. It shows a slim, handsome young man with a radiant smile who had just begun his sophomore year at the University of Pennsylvania. As a talented writer for the university newspaper Penn, Blaze had a special gift for connecting food and culture. His fellow students called him the food poet. He could turn a simple cup of coffee into a philosophical journey, recalls his roommate Marcus Chen. Once, he wrote an entire column about how roasting coffee beans resembles the human maturation process, how we become who we are through heat and pressure. In one of his last articles, he wrote about a small Vietnamese restaurant in Philadelphia. Every bowl of pho tells the story of a family who risked everything for the American dream. In the steam rising from the soup float, the hopes and dreams of generations. His classmate Sarah Chen remembers, "Blaze was the only one who stayed after class to talk with the kitchen staff. He wanted to hear their stories, understand where their recipes came from." His articles were more than just restaurant reviews, they were literary works of art. "He could make words dance," recalls his father Gideon. When Blaze wrote about food, it was never just about the food. It was about people, culture, life. But Blaze's dreams reached further. He wanted to study medicine, to heal people, while pursuing his passion for writing on the side. In the Jewish community, he was an active and beloved member, advocating early for LGBTQ+ rights. He was someone who stood up for his convictions, says Rabbi Arnold Rechlis of the University Synagogue. At a Holocaust memorial event, he gave a speech that moved us all. He asked, "What are we doing today to ensure this never happens again?" The rabbi pauses, his eyes filling with tears. The bitter irony of those words haunts me to this day. Blaze's best friend, Rehea Rarofsky, remembers the day he confided his biggest secret to her. They were walking along Orange County Beach, the sun setting. "He was trembling all over," she recalls. "When he told me he was gay, I saw the fear in his eyes. I just hugged him and said, 'It's okay, Blaze. Love who you love.'" She smiles wistfully. "We were like Siamese twins in high school. He was the only other person who understood my crazy ideas." His parents, Jeannie and Gideon, had long suspected their son might be gay. With the unconditional love that characterized their family, they approached him. "Whatever your situation is, we accept it. We love you. We don't care." It was this acceptance at home that gave Blaze the strength to be himself. No one suspected that this very openness, this authenticity, would make him a target. Because in the same town, at the same school, Sam Woodward was growing up, a young man whose path would tragically intersect with Blaze's. Rehea Rarofsky vividly remembers Sam Woodward from their shared time at the Orange County School of the Arts. Her face darkens as she speaks of him. He was the complete opposite of Blaze, she says. While Blaze lit up rooms, Sam seemed to absorb light. He always sat alone, drawing weapons in his notebook. It was disturbing. He had that reputation even then, she adds. Racist, homophobic, sexist, the kind of person you'd rather avoid. What no one knew, behind the quiet facade lurked a dangerous extremist in the making. Sam Woodward appeared outwardly as an intelligent, if withdrawn, young man. But something dark was brewing beneath the surface. Digital forensics later revealed a disturbing chronology of radicalization. It started with seemingly harmless gaming forums, explains cyber investigator Jack Morrison. Then came the first racist memes, the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, like a poison slowly spreading. In his encrypted diary, Sam meticulously documented his path to enlightenment, as he called it, a disturbing collection of violent fantasies and hate messages. Sam had become a member of Atomwaffen Division, a particularly dangerous neo-Nazi group. Sarah Moore, who monitors hate groups for LGBTQ+ rights organization GLAAD, explains, Atomwaffen Division is like a cancer in our society. They deliberately recruit young, confused men and turn them into ticking time bombs of hate. The group posted disturbing propaganda videos online between 2017 and 2018. They want to blow up the world as it exists, Moore explains. Their goal is a white ethno-state, a society without Jews, without LGBTQ people, without people of color. A former member of the group, who wishes to remain anonymous, had contact with Sam in the year before Blaze's murder. It was like a brotherhood, he explains. The common interests were hate for Jews, for gays, for black people. Sam wore the Atomwaffen mask, gave the Nazi salute, traveled to Colorado to meet neo-Nazi leader James Mason. January 2nd, 2018, began like any normal day. A neighbor's surveillance camera recorded Blaze leaving the house at 11:17 p.m. He was wearing his favorite jeans and a blue University of Pennsylvania sweatshirt. He looked so full of life, the neighbor says today. He even waved at the camera, as if he knew it would be his final goodbye. Blaze was home for winter break and had cooked an elaborate Italian meal for his family that evening. It was as if he had poured all his love into that meal. Jeannie recalls through tears. If I had known it would be our last meal together. The next morning, Blaze was supposed to meet his mother at the dentist. When he didn't show up and wasn't responding to his phone, her initial concern quickly turned to panic. Everything was still in his room. His wallet, his glasses, even his retainer. With trembling hands, they tried to log into his social media accounts. On Snapchat, they finally found a frightening clue. Blaze had met with Sam Woodward that night. The Bernsteins immediately contacted Sam and recorded the conversation. His story initially sounded plausible. He had driven Blaze to Borrego Park, where Blaze got out and disappeared. I called out for him, Sam said with apparent concern, but he was just gone. What the desperate parents didn't know, Sam and Blaze had met on Tinder. They had exchanged flirtatious messages. You're hot, Blaze had written. You don't look so bad yourself, Sam had replied. It was a dangerous game between a young man who was open about his sexuality and another who possibly compensated for his repressed homosexuality with extreme hatred. The search for Blaze mobilized all of Orange County. Helicopters circled over Borrego Park. Search dogs combed through dense brush, while thousands of volunteers distributed flyers with Blaze's radiant smile. Rabbi Rachlis coordinated efforts from the University Synagogue, where the Jewish community gathered day and night to pray and hope. "Please, please, keep an eye out for my baby," Jeannie Pepper pleaded at a press conference. Her voice broke. "I want him home with me." Gideon stood beside her, his arm firmly around her shoulders, his face a mask of despair. 7 days passed. 7 days during which hope slipped through their fingers like sand. Then, on January 9th, the rain brought the cruel truth to light. Under a mound of earth in Borrego Park, investigators found Blaze's body, stabbed 28 times. The news hit the community like a blow. Media coverage changed dramatically. What had begun as a missing person story evolved into a national debate about hate crimes. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC sent reporters to Orange County. The case touched on so many sensitive societal issues, explains media scholar Dr. David Cohen. Antisemitism, homophobia, online radicalization, suddenly these abstract threats manifested in a concrete, heartbreaking story. Vigils turned into memorial services. "Blaze was the light of our community," Rabbi Ratchlis said, his voice breaking. "Now we must carry his light within us." The investigation took a shocking turn when police arrested Sam Woodward. The investigation timeline shows the methodical work of law enforcement. First interview with Woodward on January 10th, the search of his car on the 11th, the house search on the 12th. Detective Maria Rodriguez recalls, "Each day revealed a more terrifying picture. We found not just the physical evidence, but also his digital footprint. Years of radicalization documented in chat logs and forum posts. In his car, they found blood traces from both Sam and Blaze. A bloody knife in his house carried Blaze's DNA. But what investigators uncovered went far beyond a simple murder. The search of Sam's computer revealed his double life. On one hand, he was an active member of Atomwaffen Division, attending their hate camps, training camps for violent extremists. On the other hand, they found evidence of his suppressed sexuality, visits to gay dating sites, the flirtatious messages with Blaze. Atomwaffen Division expects its members to commit violence against minorities, explains Sarah Moore. For Sam, it must have been an internal struggle. His possible homosexuality on one side, his involvement in a homophobic hate group on the other. The trial began in September 2021. The prosecution painted a clear picture. This was not just murder, but a hate crime targeting both Jews and gay people. The defendant stabbed Blaze Bernstein 28 times, District Attorney Todd Spitzer stated in his opening argument. This was an act of rage, of hate, fueled by ideology and self-hatred. The evidence was overwhelming. Chat logs showed Sam boasting about the murder to fellow Atomwaffen members. "I put a Nazi behind bars today," he wrote, using anti-Semitic slurs. His browser history revealed searches for "how to dispose of a body" and knife-killing techniques in the days before the murder. The defense tried to argue that Sam had acted in self-defense, claiming Blaze had made unwanted sexual advances. But this strategy crumbled when prosecutors presented evidence of Sam's own activity on gay dating apps. The defendant's actions weren't about self-defense, Assistant DA Jennifer Keller argued. They were about self-hatred projected onto an innocent young man. On November 4th, 2021, the jury reached its verdict after just 6 hours of deliberation. Guilty of first-degree murder with hate crime enhancements. Sam Woodward was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But for the Bernstein family, the verdict brought little comfort. "Justice doesn't bring back our son," Gideon said outside the courthouse. "What we want is change. real change that prevents such hatred from taking more lives. The Bernsteins channeled their grief into action. They established the Blaze Bernstein Memorial Fund, supporting LGBTQ+ youth and fighting online hate. Jeannie became a prominent speaker against extremism, visiting schools and universities. If we can save just one young person from hatred, she says, then Blaze's death won't have been in vain. The case led to concrete changes. California strengthened its hate crime laws. Social media platforms improved their monitoring of extremist content. The FBI increased its focus on far-right extremism. Today, 5 years after Blaze's death, his legacy lives on in unexpected ways. The University of Pennsylvania's student newspaper created the Blaze Bernstein Memorial Fellowship for aspiring food writers. His food blog posts have been collected into a book, Cooking with Blaze: Stories of Love, Food, and Connection. In the Orange County School of the Arts, where both Blaze and Sam once walked the halls, students now participate in mandatory tolerance workshops. "We can't pretend hate doesn't exist in our schools," says Principal Elizabeth Martinez. "Blaze's story teaches us why we must confront it head-on." The Bernsteins continue their work. Their home, once filled with Blaze's laughter and the smell of his cooking experiments, has become a gathering place for LGBTQ+ youth and their families. Every young person who finds acceptance here, Jeannie says, is a tribute to Blaze. Rabbi Rachlis sees hope in the aftermath of tragedy. Blaze's death opened many eyes, he reflects. People who never thought about hate groups, about anti-Semitism or homophobia, suddenly had to confront these realities. His story touched hearts that statistics couldn't reach. Rihia Rarovsky now works as a counselor for at-risk youth. "I see potential Sam Woodwards," she says, "but I also see potential Blazes. Our job is to nurture the light, not the darkness." In Borrego Park, where Blaze's life ended, a memorial garden blooms year-round. Orange and blue flowers, his favorite colors, surround a simple plaque with his words from that Vietnamese restaurant review. "In every meal shared, in every story told, we find our common humanity." The garden has become a symbol of resilience and hope. Students gather there to study, couples share quiet moments, and sometimes people leave small stones in the Jewish tradition. Each one a promise to remember, to love, to stand against hate. Blaze Bernstein was 20 years old when his life was cut short. But in those 20 years, he showed how to live fully, love openly, and stand proudly for who you are. His light continues to shine, challenging us all to build a world where no one dies for being different.